And now...
What is this?
I know you're gonna dig this.
This is the Flatland Sports Podcast.
Where do you come from? Lubbock, Texas?
Lubbock, Texas.
A place called Lubbock.
I wonder if they think I'm so gorgeous back in Lubbock.
What do you care about Lubbock? You're big time now.
I'm just a little homesick, that's all.
Is that what you want, Larry, to spend the night in Lubbock, Texas at a day's inn with a $15 voucher from Cinnabon?
Lubbock? No, it's near Lubbock.
What's it like there?
It's flat, real flat. You stand on a coffee can, you can see Colorado.
How are you doing? And Merry Christmas from across the Great Plains of West Texas. This is the Flatland Sports Podcast, free and available worldwide on YouTube. College football is trying to shut out the G5, why it's nonsense and why we should care. Also, Texas Tech men's basketball gets a win over number 3 Duke, and the Lady Raiders get a win at number 15 Baylor. We'll also have the good, the bad, and the ugly, and Big 12 end-of-year football power rankings. But first, this episode of the Flatland Sports Podcast is powered by Midwest Helmets, where owner Dallas Thompson turns football art into a full-on experience. If you've ever wanted a custom helmet of any team, any design, or a wild idea straight from your imagination, Dallas can make it happen. Want a classic double T on a bass boat glitter shell? He'll do it. Need a helmet to rep your fantasy football squad? He'll build that too. Whatever you're dreaming up, Dallas can bring it to life with incredible attention to detail. These are one-of-a-kind pieces that will level up your office, man cave, studio, anywhere you rep your team. To order, just DM Midwest Helmets on Instagram or hit their Facebook page. Both are linked in the description. And when you mention Flatland Sports in your message, you'll get 10% off your custom build. Midwest Helmets, custom, bold, and built to stand out. I'm looking forward. I've got a old school 1970s helmet coming in. It's going to be right back here on the studio table here. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're here right now, like the video, double check that you're subscribed. We had over 400 views on the last video and 2 more subscribers. So if you're here, maybe you thought you were subscribed. Maybe I'm just popping up all over your feed. Just go ahead and double check and hit that subscribe button and like the video. It's free for you. It helps the show grow. If you don't like me, you can mute me later. Lots to get into today. The first round of college football is completed. Oklahoma completely blew a 17-0 lead to lose at home to Alabama 34-24. Actually, one of the better games of the first round. And by the way, Oklahoma is now 0-5 in the college football playoff. Still has less college football playoff wins than TCU. And frankly, the entire Big 12 combined. Alabama advances and will play Indiana in the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day. The other game, Texas A&M fell to Miami in whatever the opposite of a barn burner is, so maybe an Amish barn raiser. 0-0 at halftime, a true Sickos Committee classic. Nothing but punts, missed field goals. One of those missed field goals was actually a doink. Everything that they love over there at Sickos Committee. The final score was 10-3. A&M did not score a touchdown, lost in the most gut-wrenching way possible, throwing an end zone pick when the Aggies had a chance to tie the game. You hate to see it. Couldn't happen to a better fan base. My goodness, those poor Aggies. Miami will advance to play Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. The 2 Group of 5 games went about as what most people expected. Tulane, who I actually picked to upset, got run out by Ole Miss 41-10. Just didn't play well at all. And I'll give credit where credit is due to the Mississippi Rebels. I was curious about how they'd respond after being ditched by Lane Kiffin. There's two schools of thought there. One, the team would get ditched by their coach and they would rally around each other and build up the season for themselves. And then there's the other fact that a lot of them are there as transfers and maybe just there for the NIL, and you could have just seen them completely deflate after Kiffin left and decided they didn't care anymore if their head coach didn't care. Not the case in this case. The Rebels just completely shut out what actually was a pretty good Tulane team, 41-10. JMU, though, gave us a better fight of the two, fell to Oregon 51-34, but showed up for the game. Outscored more than half of the playoff field in the first round. Now, Oregon fans will tell you it was against the third-string team, whatever. And yeah, that's true. But JMU also put together some really good drives that, for the most part, only stalled out because of self-inflicted mistakes, false start penalties, this, that, and the other, a couple of really bad interceptions. If they had cleaned those up, this game gets a whole lot more interesting. But the main story here, not surprisingly, the power that be, essentially the voices at Fox and primarily ESPN, immediately took to the fact that we didn't get some generational upset and used it to push the same old narrative. The G5 doesn't belong in the college football playoff. My good buddy Joel Klatt had this to say: I genuinely feel bad for these JMU players. They are a good football team who should be competing for a national championship at the appropriate level. Now, most will only remember them for tonight. It's not their fault college football can't figure out a proper postseason structure. The proper structure, of course, being that we relegate those teams to a mid-tier playoff and block them permanently from major college football, according to Joel Klatt. Here's the thing. Those JMU players just competed for a national championship at the highest level against the Oregon Ducks in a historic college football venue on a national stage. No, they didn't get the result that they wanted, just like 10 other teams in this 12-team playoff won't get the result that they want. And honestly, they played just as well as, if not better than, about half of the first-round field. Their players, coaches, and fans will remember this season for the rest of their lives, so cut the fake sympathy. You don't actually care about JMU or their players or their fans. You don't care about them, about being fair to the group of five. What you believe is that the right to play for a national championship in college football should only be reserved for a handful of brand name programs. And the thing is, too, we're sitting here acting like we're feeling sorry for the group of five because they got beat on the road at Oregon in the college football playoff instead of playing for their own separate but equal national championship. No real group of five fan or program wants to be shoved into some second tier playoff. Go take a scroll through Facebook and Twitter. None of them want that. Every single one of them wants to be involved in the highest level of college football, even though it is incredibly unlikely that they'll do anything incredible, that they'll go out and find a way to win a national championship. They still, they just want a seat at the table because competing at the highest level matters. So don't pretend that you feel sorry for a fan base that isn't actually unhappy. And the media knows that. Which brings up the real question. What is the motivation? At best, it's logo snobbery. Media folks whining about games that they're forced to cover, feeling like Tulane and JMU are beneath them. We've seen that a lot, especially when ESPN comes to cover games at Texas Tech. But the other explanation, and unfortunately what I feel like is the truth, runs a lot deeper. Pushing group of five teams out of the college football playoff is just another step towards consolidating this sport into a 30-team Super League. Tom Fornelli had a great article, laid this out in his article for CBS Sports, entitled, Blame the college football playoff system for uneven fields? No, blame the powers who've upended the sport. He writes that all the pearl-clutching blowouts is aimed at the wrong target. College football has always been top-heavy. NIL and transfer portal have helped spread the talent a bit. He called it the GLP-1 of college football. But overall, the sport is more top-heavy than ever, especially when you compare the group of five level to the Power 4 level. Conference dominance isn't new. The Big Ten and SEC have spent decades consolidating power by adding brands like USC, UCLA, Oregon, Texas, and Oklahoma, weakening leagues like the Pac-12 and the Big 12 and widening the gap. Blowouts aren't a playoff problem. They're a structural problem. Budgets, recruiting, NIL, and it's only going to keep trending this way. The richest leagues will keep pulling away, and eventually that leads to a breakaway, a Super League, 30-team, just SEC versus Big Ten apocalypse. And even then, you'll still see blowouts, as Tom Fornelli points out. So this isn't just sour grapes from a few so-called journalists. This is part of a larger push to cut out the majority of schools in favor of an NFL-light league for the biggest brands. And that's why it blows my mind to see Big 12 voices like Jason Scheer from Wildcat Authority pushing the cut the group of five narrative. As someone who watched the Big Ten help destroy his school's 100-year-plus-old conference in the name of greed, and yet here we are. Ultimately, we have to defend the group of five's right to be included because it isn't just about the group of five. This is a blueprint to eventually cut anyone the college football media machine decides is unworthy, including the Big 12, including Texas Tech. If ESPN had their way, Texas Tech would have no part of it. They were just too good to be left out. They were successfully able to completely cut out BYU, despite the fact that BYU, by ESPN's own metrics, met all of the qualifications of being an 8, 7, or 6 seed in the playoff. The problem with the college football playoff isn't that it needs to be more exclusive, it's that it needs to be more inclusive. We may never go back to regional conferences that we grew up with, at least not anytime soon. At some point, especially if the Super League happens, eventually it'll fall apart, and we'll probably get back to something like that. But in the meantime, a 24-team playoff modeled after the FCS, 10 conference champions, 14 at-large bids, it's the compromise that the sport needs. Give every conference a real shot while still giving the SEC and Big Ten room to load up the field with their so-called deserving teams. Because if the group of 5 gets cut, it's only a matter of time before they cut your favorite team too. When we come back, we'll talk Texas Tech basketball. This is the Flatland Sports Podcast, presented by Midwest Helmets. The Texas Tech men's basketball team picked up a huge win over the then third-ranked Duke Blue Devils at Madison Square Garden. Final score 82-81. Texas Tech jumped out to a 9-0 lead early before Duke went on a run to go up 46-36 before halftime. The Blue Devils held a 17-point lead and a 98% win probability, according to ESPN Analytics, about halfway through the second half. And then Christian Anderson went on an absolute heater, scoring 23 points in the second half, 27 points total, 4 points in the first half. Luwan Watts stepped up in this game, contributed 20 points before fouling out with 11 minutes remaining. Didn't want to see him foul out, but absolutely need to see and love to see Luwan Watts playing at the level that he played. And of course, JT Toppin did mildly, compared to JT Toppin standards, what JT Toppin does, and that was pick up a double-double with 19 points and 10 rebounds. Toppin also hit the go-ahead jumper to put Tech up 78-77 with under 2 minutes remaining and allowed Tech to close the game out. Then Tech got a critical steal, and Christian Anderson drained another layup while drawing a foul to extend the lead 80-77. Duke cut the lead 81-80, and then Christian Anderson drew a foul and sunk the game-winning free throw to go up 82-81. Christian Anderson, it can't be stated enough how huge he was for this team and for this win. Just put everyone on his backs and decided, no, we're not getting blown out by the Duke Blue Devils today. However, perhaps an even bigger story was who was not on the court. Tyree Bryan playing just 3 total minutes before McCaslin took him out of the game permanently. No injury, nothing, just benched him. Just a good old-fashioned little league, you're playing like garbage benching. After the game against Northern Colorado, McCaslin alluded to there being perhaps effort issues, specifically lack of effort on the defensive side of the ball from certain players. Tyree Bryan is speculated to be that player. Bryan started the game but came to the bench immediately and was replaced by a rotation of Leon Horner and Nolan Groves, who just completely changed the entire feel of this team. Nolan Groves took the chore of guarding Cam Boozer, no easy task for anybody, and just absolutely played his heart out and was very effective in that role, despite the pressure, despite taking on the Naismith preseason player of the year, despite being one of the greatest venues in basketball at Madison Square Garden, completely took the task on head on and did a fantastic job. And Leon Horner, perfect from the field and played solid defense against Duke as well. Regardless of what might be going on with Tyree Bryan, maybe it's an injury, maybe it's something else. The team just played better without him on the court. And you hate to see that. Maybe this is going to be sort of a wake-up call for him. And as we've seen many times in college basketball, maybe he'll never play another minute and he'll hit the transfer portal. We'll have to wait and see what happens with Bryan. Was expected to be a really solid piece for this team. Certainly one of the more talented players on a roster full of talented players. But if the effort's not there, if you're not putting in the work, it doesn't matter. Now, as far as this game goes, you secured a valuable quad one non-conference win, and more importantly, Grant McCaslin and company has this win to point to show that this team can and will play with anybody and beat anybody in the country. You went from feeling like maybe you'd be lucky to get in the NCAA tournament, maybe you could put together a second round or a Sweet 16. And after this win over Duke last weekend, the bar and the standard for Texas Tech is a Final Four and a national championship. Huge shot of confidence for this team going into the Christmas break with the conference slate right around the corner. Coming up next, Texas Tech will take on Winthrop this Sunday at 1 p.m. That game is on TNT. Lady Raiders were in action as well. Took on number 15 Baylor on the road. Returned to Lubbock victorious. First win against Baylor since 2011. I was at that game, by the way. First win in Waco since February 8th of 2004. I was in junior high that year. Texas Tech still remains undefeated, 14-0, 1-0 in conference play, and checked in at the AP poll at number 21. By the way, this is the first time in Texas Tech history that football, men's basketball, and women's basketball were ranked at the same time. And season impacts aside, it's always good to smack the Baylor Bears around in any sport, really, but especially women's basketball. I'm old enough to remember when Brittany Griner punched Jordan Barncastle in the face. So with that in mind, to hell with Baylor. Enjoy the L in Waco. Great win, Lady Raiders. As for the game itself, it was a 1-point win, but a different kind of 1-point win than the men's basketball game. You didn't have to overcome a huge deficit, just stayed with Baylor the entire game, paced with the Bears, and then outscored Baylor 22-17 in the fourth quarter. Snuda Collins, 21 points. Bailey Maupin, who has been just an absolute pillar for this team, 11 points, her 12th double-digit game of the season. The difference maker in this game to me, though, was the turnovers. Texas Tech forced 21 turnovers against the Baylor Bears, scored 17 points off of turnovers. The Lady Raiders will take on UCF a week from today after the Christmas break. That is a 6 p.m. tip-off on ESPN+. We'll have the good, the bad, and the ugly when we come back. This is the Flatland Sports Podcast presented by Midwest Helmets.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
It is the good, the bad, and the ugly. And let's jump right into it with the good.
It's all good, man.
Huge wins for both men's and women's basketball versus number 3 Duke and number 15 Baylor. The win in Waco put the Lady Raiders on the polls at number 21 for the first time since 2012. And as I mentioned before, Texas Tech men's basketball, women's basketball, and football are ranked at the same time for the first time in school history. Let's get another good.
It's good.
The Bush's Boca Raton Bowl of Beans. And let me put the image up here. All-time great bowl game name. Perhaps of all time. I typically hate bowls that are named entirely after their sponsor, but in this case, we should just drop Boca Raton and just call it the Bush's Bowl of Beans game. I mean, just well done, advertisers, for Bush's Baked Beans. And we'll segue from that to the bad.
So dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb.
We'll jump from there from what I can only imagine was the Louisville locker room after the Boca Raton Bowl. We'll put a picture of the celebration here. Brutal. Just brutal, and we'll leave it at there. We don't want to get too graphic on the Flatland Sports Podcast. Another bad.
Whoa, this is worthless.
Oregon fans aren't as fun to interact with, which has been kind of a bummer. Was really looking forward to meeting up with a new fan base. Lots of Texas Longhorn energy where they get offended when you don't kiss the ring. How dare we believe in ourselves here in Lubbock, Texas? And I don't want to paint with too wide of a brush. There's definitely some fun Oregon fans that I've met. As with any big brand, there's always an obnoxious population of fans who are basically just bandwagon fans and have the sports IQ of a grape. A lot of them reside, or at least claim to reside, in Eugene, Oregon. We'll move on to the ugly.
Why are you the way that you are?
ESPN and a handful of sports personalities from various platforms who have dedicated themselves to destroying everything we love about college football by turning the college football playoff into an opportunity to just completely push down teams not considered worthy, as they did with Tulane and JMU. JMU especially should have been one of the stories of the year. Instead, ESPN made every opportunity to make it clear that they were not welcome at the table. How is it possible to be so out of touch with the fans you supposedly cater to? And it seems like the most obvious way forward is to expand the playoff. Just copy and paste the FCS format. It's not hard. 24 teams, 10 conference champions, 14 at large. Everyone has a path to the college football playoff. No deserving team is left out, and ESPN can stick as many mediocre Big Ten and SEC teams as they want with 14 at-large bids. It's a win-win for everyone. When we return, we will have Big 12 power rankings. This is the Flatland Sports Podcast, presented by Midwest Helmets.
She's God, Captain. If I push it any harder, the whole thing will blow.
It's Division I football! It's the Big 12! It ain't either murals!
Back for one more. This is end of season Big 12 football power rankings. We will start at the bottom. Number 16, Oklahoma State. Finished the season 1-11, 0-9. Just an absolute disaster of a season. And following up what was an absolute disaster of a season in 2024 as well. Now, might be looking better for the Cowboys. They picked up a great head coach in the former Red Raider, Eric Moritz. Shout out to the Elf. Number 15, Colorado. 1-8, 3-9. It's just a mess in Boulder right now. And primarily because of Deion's health, which I don't want to blame Deion for that, but there's no way it's not a distraction. I hope Deion gets the care he needs and feels better, and maybe he's got a few more years in him. We'll see. I'll be mildly surprised if he comes back for another season at Colorado. And I just don't know where they go from there. I don't think Colorado has it in them to really invest in NIL. I don't think they have it in them to want to hire a good coach. I think Deion was kind of their shot, and we'll see. It's not a very well run sports administration. At number 14, UCF finished 5-7, had a solid first season with Scott Frost returning, but no real key wins to point to or look at. It'll be interesting to see how the offseason goes for the Knights and just how the Scott Frost era goes in general. At number 13, the Baylor Bears, 5-7, 3-6 in Big 12 play. Started the season as a dark horse Big 12 title contender and ended the season with their AD resigning after some nefarious allegations, and Dave Aranda somehow being extended for another year. This administration is an absolute dumpster fire. I hope for Baylor's sake, as a Texas Tech fan, I hope they continue to burn. For Baylor's sake, I hope the new AD turns the ship around here and just finds a way to run it better. It seemed like Mack Rhodes' primary agenda was to distance Baylor as much as possible from the Art Briles era, which unfortunately also meant distancing Baylor from winning as much as possible. And of course, the biggest crime against humanity, getting rid of the gold and replacing it with mustard yellow. Bring back the gold, bring back the Baylor Bears, but also as a Texas Tech fan, please don't. I don't want to see that again. Nobody wants to see that again. At number 12, West Virginia, 4-8, 2-7 in Big 12 conference play. Showed a lot of promise this year, though, under year one of Rich Rodriguez. Got a great win over a ranked Houston team on the road. West Virginia is going to be very dangerous in a couple years. I'm buying into Rich Rod. I think he's going to have it turned around in Morgantown soon. Number 11, Kansas, 5-7, 3-6. You hate to see it. Couldn't have happened to a nicer institution. Was expected to be a Big 12 title contender. Was expected to be a Big 12 title contender going into the game in Lubbock, and found out that they were not. Also found out that Lance Leipold is actually a huge tool, which was a little bit depressing. Kansas will continue being Kansas for the foreseeable future. I don't see any way out. Number 10, Cincinnati, 7-5, 5-4 in conference play. Way exceeded my expectations in my initial power rankings. I thought Scott Satterfield was done. I thought he was going to be fired mid-season. And instead, he took Cincinnati to the cusp of a Big 12 championship game before an injury-fueled November got the better of them. We'll be looking for a new quarterback, unfortunately, and is the first Big 12 team on the list to make it to a bowl game. They'll take on Navy in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. At number 9, Kansas State. Good Lord, Kansas State, man. 6-6, 5-4. Season was an absolute disaster from the start after dropping one to their rival Iowa State in Ireland. And then coach resigned, kind of pushed out unfairly, in my opinion. I mean, just the switch that Kansas State fans had from a coach who had won them a Big 12 championship just a couple seasons ago. And Kansas State just hired their former quarterback, who is the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M. History tells us that always works out. Good luck to you, Kansas State. Declined a bowl invite, which is just a crummy trend in college football right now as well. And glad they got a fine from the Big 12. They're costing us money. Number 8, Iowa State. 8-4, 5-4. Put together a decent season when you consider that they were lucky to field the team at all after the injuries they had. The downside, though, lost Matt Campbell to Penn State. I think the run may be over for the Cyclones. We'll see what comes in Ames. Also declined a bowl bid, which is, again, just a crummy trend in college football. We're watching the collapse of the bowl season before our eyes. At number 7, Arizona State, 9-3, 6-3. Really a great team, was expected again to make a return to the Big 12 championship game in the preseason. Just had some bad luck from an injury standpoint. When healthy, this team was good enough to beat anybody, and we saw that when Texas Tech took a trip to Phoenix. But even with the injuries to Sam Leavitt and Jordan Tyson, put together an 8-win season, and unfortunately it ends with Sam Leavitt in the transfer portal. Absolutely sucks for college football to see a guy like Sam Leavitt, who has been the Arizona State guy, took Arizona State to a college football playoff, and he's in the transfer portal chasing dollar bills. I don't blame him, but it sucks for the sport. At number 6, TCU. 8-4, 5-4, maybe a little underrated this season. Had some great wins to start out over North Carolina, SMU, Baylor, Cincinnati, and Houston. Couldn't quite get over the hump, though, with losses to BYU and Kansas State. That Kansas State one especially damaging for the Horned Frogs. Going to be an interesting offseason ahead of the Frogs, and you wonder, with how the last few seasons have gone, is the seat getting a little hot for Sonny Dykes? And is there maybe time to have a conversation about the future of TCU athletics? First, though, a huge game and a chance to turn it all around against the number 16 USC Trojans at the Alamo Bowl. And he's my friend, so go watch Clint Foster's Remember the Alamo Bowl movie on his channel on YouTube. Clint Foster Creations. Number 5, Arizona. 9-3, 6-3, quietly put together a great season. Finished ranked number 17. Could be set for a huge 2026 season, and they'll be facing SMU in the Holiday Bowl. I didn't really watch a down of Arizona football. Didn't think that they were going to be any good, and all of a sudden I look up and they've got 9 wins for the season. They'll come to Lubbock, I believe, next year. I know they're on the Texas Tech schedule. I think they're coming to Lubbock next year. Number 4, Houston, 9-3, 6-3, completely turned around in year number 2 under Willie Fritz. Had a couple stumbles versus TCU and West Virginia. That West Virginia game, an absolute head scratcher too. But otherwise, you win one of those games, and you are, if remembering the tiebreaker scenario was correct, win one of those games and you're a Big 12 championship team. Houston will absolutely be a force moving forward with Willie Fritz if he can keep the defense playing at the level that they are. At number 3, the Utah Utes. Utes. 10-2, 7-2, bounced back after a disappointing first season in the Big 12 They are a championship caliber team and a college football playoff team. Don't let them know that I said this. Frankly, I think they got hosed in the college football playoff field as well. Should have at least been in the discussion. Couldn't get over Texas Tech and BYU this season. Kind of reminds me of some of these old Texas Tech teams from the 2000s where put together great seasons but couldn't punch through Texas and Oklahoma. Number 2, BYU, 11-2, 8-1. Only loss was to the Big 12 champion Texas Tech on the road and then again in the Big 12 championship game. Finished number 12, absolutely hosed by ESPN and the College Football Playoff Committee. Should be in, I think, in that number 8 to number 6 range. Had better metrics. But ESPN's own metrics, by the way. Better metrics than Notre Dame did, than Alabama did, but left out of the discussion altogether. Wasn't even mentioned. A complete joke of ESPN, and they're inching closer and closer to a lawsuit here. Future home and home with Notre Dame may help build some national respect moving forward, and they've got number 22 Georgia Tech in the Pop-Tarts Bowl after Notre Dame cowered out, ducked out. And of course, at number 1, your Big 12 champion. I've got the shirt. See if I can. Your Big 12 football champion, Texas Tech Red Raiders, finished the season 12-1. Big 12 champions, only lost to Arizona State on the road with a backup quarterback and still nearly won that game. All other games have been wins by 20 or more points. Joey McGuire tried to tell you, the country is going to find out real quick, specifically on New Year's Day coming up. Everything runs through Lubbock. Texas Tech will play the number 5 Oregon Ducks in the Orange Bowl in the second round of the College Football Playoff on New Year's Day. That's an 11 a.m. kickoff. We will preview that game in the next edition of the Flatland Sports Podcast. But that's all I have for you. Please take a moment if you're here, like the video, subscribe, follow Flatland Sports on social media @_Flatland Sports. Thank you so much to our sponsor, Midwest Helmets. Check him out. He does great work. If you need a helmet for your office, your man cave, heck, if you want a helmet to wear while you're driving, Dallas can make it happen. When we come back, we will preview the Oregon Ducks. This is the Flatland Sports Podcast. I will see you next time, and Wreck 'em Tech.